He holds the degree of Doctor of Education in Organizational Leadership. In addition, he works as a servant leader in the areas of consulting and coaching, providing resources to people in third world countries as a means of social justice. He is also a Hollywood publicist for Oscar-nominated films. Please welcome Dr. Bonds as he talks about the greatest gift. The greatest gift, Dr. Bonds.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am so excited to be here today. And thank you for having me to come and speak today. It's such a pleasure. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am here to talk to you about the greatest gift. I was 17-ish, and I was in school and high school. And I remember going to school, I just was not sure exactly what I wanted to do or what I was good at. But what I was sure of is that I was not sure. So my teacher asked she asked the class to write a poem, And she said, write this poem and it needs to go like this. It needs to have this in it, that in it. And I said, okay, all right, sure. And then I go home and I write. I had never written a poem before in my life. So I wrote a poem. And the next day I turned my poem in, and it was a lengthy poem. I just wrote what I thought would be a good poem. And the next day she took up everybody's papers and she began grading. That next day, everyone started getting their grades. So she would give the student their grade, and they got their grade. Everybody's getting their grades, and then it's my turn. So I'm wondering, I've never written a poem before. What is about to happen here? So she's walking up to me, and of course it's that slow motion walk in my mind. So she slow motions walks up to me, and she gives me my paper. When she gives me my paper, I look at it, so nervous. I look at it and I get a 0. So my smile, of course, turned to a frown, and she walks away. So I raise my hand, and I'm really distraught at this moment. And I ask her, can I come up? Because I'm embarrassed at this time. I'm embarrassed because people are looking. And they're like, okay, what'd you get? So I walk up to her desk and I ask her, what happened? Like I got a 0. And she looks at me and she smiles and she says, you could not have written this poem. And I look at her and I'm like, yes, I did. I wrote the poem. She said, no, you could not have written this poem, this style. She said, not this style as a first-time writer. In other words, the poem was too good to come from me. Now, at that time, I was like, okay, all right. And I couldn't, and I didn't even say anything about it. I didn't say anything about it. And then I remember getting my first job at Wendy's. I got my first job at Wendy's. And my best friend, who just happened to be white, got the job at the same time. There were moments while working at Wendy's where I thought was strange, but I didn't think about it. So I remembered my boss saying, Calvin, for some reason, you have to work in the back. You have to work in the back. Go and wash dishes. Now, keep in mind, I felt like I could count like everyone else. And then my best friend, he always worked up front. At the time, it just didn't hit me because, I mean, we're kids, we're working. I mean, nothing could have been wrong with this picture, except for one day, my boss says, Calvin, go ahead and take your 30-minute break. And my friend comes up to me and says, Calvin, there's something wrong. My white friend. And I say, what? Like, what's wrong? He says, I've been taking an hour break. Why do you only get 30 minutes? He says to me, there is something wrong. And for some reason, it just could not click in my mind. And I started seeing patterns of events, patterns of things happening. I remember as a Black man just driving in Pasadena. And the police, I hear the police behind me. And I'm coming from like a meeting. I have a suit on. I'm coming from a meeting, and I hear this microphone. I pull over, and I'm driving, and I'm like, oh, they're always pulling somebody over. And he says it with so much force, and I turn around, and he's talking to me. So I pull over, and when I pull over, he gets out of the car, he puts his hand on his gun, and he comes around to where I am. And he asks me, have you been drinking? Now I have my suit on, I'm driving, and I'm froze at this time. Everybody's looking at me. And I say, no, I have not been drinking. He looks around at everyone else and says, get out the car. At this point, my life began to flash before my eyes. I get out the car. He summons me to come around with his hand on his gun, ready. And I walk around the car to where he is, and he says, follow my hands. And he gives me a test to see if and his hand is on his gun. And at this time, and I have my suit on, I don't know what to do. So I follow his hand. And in my mind, I say, just get home safely. Get home safely. And then I get back in my car, and I think, again, the series of things that's been happening in my life. Why me? Why does it happen to people like me, to Black and brown people like me? And I began to search the question and search for the answer to this question. And I found out, or I found the answer, which is, why not me? I've had so many things to happen in my life that I would say is not fair. And as a result of me being Black, and I'm sorry, somebody's banging on my door right now. I want to finish this story. So if you all would just give me a second, I'll be right back. Somebody's knocking on my door. Thank you. Yes. So the question I ask myself is, why me? And the answer I came up with is, why not me? And what I realize is these barriers that happened to me, it was my calling to become a bridge to help others get across the same situations. And I realized that I was my greatest gift to myself. And the greatest gift that I could give myself is love, is to love myself through all of these things and figure out how to make the world a better place. And I'm here today to tell you that no matter what you've gone through, no matter how the odds may be stacked up against you, the greatest gift that you have to yourself is yourself, and the greatest gift you can give yourself is love. So I began to study that whole notion of how do I love myself through all of this? And I want to talk to you today because you're the greatest gift to yourself. In your Black excellence, in your brown excellence, how do you love yourself through all of this stuff that's happening today? to be the best you. So a little bit about myself, all of this stuff is happening around me. So the question is, how do I take this negative, change it to a positive, and affect change in my life? I enrolled in Pepperdine. I began to educate myself. I began to look at my hands and say, okay, what do I know? I know Black people because I'm Black. So how can I use that as change in the world? Well, I educated myself. I became great. I found out I'm good at storytelling. And now one of the things that I do for a living is diversity, equity, and inclusion, training, coaching, and teaching organizations about biases, implicit biases, how to empower themselves in the midst of whatever the situation is. And so I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you today. And I'm going to give you some points, some pointers, and please feel free to write these down on how to be the best you in loving yourself, which is the greatest gift. You're the greatest gift to yourself. So please feel free to write these down. I'm going to go over a few points. So again, whatever happened in our past and the things that we may be facing, find a way to say, okay, how do I take that, turn it around, and affect change? Number one, educate yourself. Educate yourself. Because it's by educating yourself that, first of all, I will tell you, when I was growing up, I didn't realize how kingly I am, how kingly I was, how kingly I am, and how kingly I was destined to be. Until I found out everybody came from Africa. Checkmate. So educate yourself on your history, educate yourself on just the powerful people that have come before you and who are the voices. Educate yourself. And like I said, for myself, I used things that I was good at. I was good at storytelling. I was good at, at knowing stuff as far as what affects people of color. And that helped me to become a DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant. And now I get to do stuff for tech companies who pay me to tell them, well, this is how you include everyone. So number one, educate yourself. Number two, do not limit yourself to just one thing. Do not limit yourself to one thing. And growing up, I was always told, pick something, stick with it, and you'll be great. But I didn't just have a one way of thinking. Like it wasn't just that thing. I was working at the Social Security office. And I remember everybody telling me, you have a good government job, stick with it, you're set for life. And I remember, and I saw people who were successful at it, but I remember sitting down one day, and of course I had files piled up behind me, and somebody was sitting in front of me who I was supposed to be interviewing. And as they were talking, all I was hearing was blah, 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 blah. But on the inside, I was saying to myself, this is not it. There are things with an S that I want to do. And you only live once. Take advantage. All those things that you want to do, write them down, get a priority list going, and begin to check those things off. I always knew that I was good at talking, so I got into leadership. I loved talking and watching TV, so I got into acting. And at the age of 14, I found out that my father was from Africa. So I got into international business. So all I'm telling you is everything that's on the inside of you, whatever that is, whatever that thing is on the inside of you or those things, go after it and don't let it just be one. We all have ideas. Everybody has $1 million idea on the inside of them. It's just a matter of bringing it out and manifesting it, putting it to work, walking in your Black and brown excellence. Okay, the next thing. Well, there are a few other things. The next thing is network. Network. How strong is networking? I will tell you this. I graduated from Pepperdine in 2016. It's been almost half a decade. And Dr. Mary Montes was one of my chair members. Dr. Mary Montes, one of my chair members. But when I graduated, the power of networking kept me working. It kept clients coming after me saying, we want to hire you. Why? Because you never meet a stranger. If you want friends, show yourself friendly. If you want clients, go after them. And you can do it. And that brings me to another point. In your Black and brown excellence during this Black History Month, do not shortchange yourself. And I know there are people of all races that may be watching, so it's for everybody. Do not shortchange yourself. You deserve the best. It took me a long time to really say, wow, I deserve this. I will tell you a story. And Dr. Miramontes, I don't know if you remember this, but when I did my dissertation, I was nervous. I was so nervous. And I did something crazy. I sang opera during my dissertation because my dissertation was on storytelling, leaders, and education. And at the end of that, I remember after defending, I remember saying, did I actually do this? Like I could not believe that me coming from the background that I came from, with all the things that were stacked up against me, did I actually defend and become Dr. Calvin Bonds? And it was Dr. Farzine who looked me straight in the eye and said, you did this. You did this. In your excellence, you did this. And I want to tell you all, do not shortchange yourself. Go after the best things in life. Write your own check. How do you write your own check? There's an entrepreneur in all of us. Figure that out. Figure out what makes money. What makes money? What does everybody need? What's that idea that's on the inside of you? And here's another thing, go global. Go global. So I got into international business because, again, I actually set out to find my father when I moved to Los Angeles, and I found him. And he was in Africa, but his family was here. So when I finally met him, he took me over there. And I got a chance to see that the world was just bigger than how I grew up. I got a chance to see that there were other ways to do things. And there was a bunch of chaos going on. But in the midst of chaos in any situation, there's opportunity. How do you affect change? So with your business, because there's an entrepreneur inside of each one of us, how do you go global? Ask yourself that question. There's always a need. How do you get clients? There's always a need. And I'll open the floor for questions pretty soon to begin to answer some questions, because I hope if you're in this group, if you're in here and You are an entrepreneur, or you have a entrepreneurial idea on the inside of you. Let me see some thumbs up. Give me some thumbs up if that's you. If you have a business or some type of creativity, maybe you say, when I get out of Pepperdine or when I get out of school, I want to work for myself. You have that on the inside of you. Go for it. I'm a living witness. Go for it. I didn't know that it was possible to have a job and not have a job. I thought I didn't know that life could be like this. And so here I am, working in Hollywood, freaking Hollywood, and I'm doing red carpets, and I had to stop and say, wait a minute, is this that same kid that got discriminated against so much because of his skin color? Is this that same good kid that's traveling across the world that got told that he was not good enough and got that 0? And now I can use all of those barriers that I had growing up as a bridge to help other people get across. Other people who may have grown up without a father, other people who may have had the odds against them, other people who may have experienced racism. And you have that same opportunity. That same opportunity. And I tell you, I attribute a lot of that to Pepperdine, to being at Pepperdine and meeting the people that said, Calvin, you can do it. You can do it. And I'm telling you the exact same thing. You can do it. All right. And here's another point. This is how you love yourself, because yourself is the greatest gift. Don't sweat the small stuff. Do not sweat the small stuff. Sometimes people will call you with mess, and they will call you, and by the time you get off the phone with them, it's like, I don't want to do anything. I'm not productive. You have to protect your mental health, protect that space. Do not sweat the small stuff. And if you notice, the higher that you go up in business, the higher that you go up in life, the higher that you go up, your circle gets smaller. It gets smaller. And then people go from saying, from being around you to saying, oh, he or she thinks they're all that. And that's not the case. So don't sweat the small stuff. And it's okay if you have to cut some people off. It's okay. So these are just some sentiments that has helped me to give myself the love, to love myself in my excellence. And I'll tell you, everyone that's watching today, you're excellent. Walk in your excellence. Be that entrepreneur. Just create. And I'll tell you something that really works when creating. Get a subscription model. What do people want? Create it. Get a subscription model. Trust me. Find some things that's not popular or that people are not doing. You can create online. You can demand customers online just by writing some posts, joining certain groups, and putting out information. People ask all the time, Calvin, how do you work and you don't really advertise that much? Well, I do. I advertise when I make posts, from Facebook to LinkedIn to Instagram. I advertise when I meet people. Treat people how I want to be treated. So I want to encourage you. I'm going to open the floor for questions and just comments. I have some questions for you all. But I want to encourage you that you are your greatest gift. It's not by accident that you was born a person of color, or that, whatever race you were born. It's not by accident. So you're to use your information, your experiences to affect change. Affect change. Okay, I can go on and on. I have about 30 more, 45 more minutes to talk, but I want to open the floor up. I want to hear from you. So let me go to the chat and you all can help me too. Does anyone have any questions or comments, maybe about how to do blah, 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 or how did you overcome blah, blah, blah? How did you get blah, blah, blah? I'll just to tell you a few things. Like I said, I work in leadership. I'm a DEI consultant. And just blessed to be able to do it from home, for tech companies, and just different platforms. I've done coaching, training in the area of entertainment. I've done acting. I've done modeling. I got a chance to do a lot of that. Right now, I'm a publicist. And then in international business, I'm setting up programs that give resources to people in third world countries, and also international business, things that you can do online. So I'm into all of those things. So does anyone have any questions about anything?
Dr. Bongs?
Yes.
Can you expand a little more on the global side of your entrepreneurial work? Talk a little bit more about how you've expanded, because the stories you've shared thus far have focused on how you went from being in a regional area, right? So starting off small, and you've slowly expanded your circle. You've cited a few things around networking. So how did you decide to get into the global space? How did you decide to take that leap outside of here in the United States?
Well, it was my experience of going over there, meaning going to different countries and seeing that our way is not the only way of doing things. And so that leads me to my next point. You have to take international chances. You have to take international chances. And life is all about taking chances. I was told before that you don't want to wait until you're 70, 80, or 90 and say, I wish I would have, could have, or I would have done this had I known. You have some people who measure wealth by money. I'm a millionaire, I'm a money, but I measure wealth by time. How much time do I have to go to the beach if I want to and make more money going to the beach than I would if I was working 10 hours a day? And then have that freedom to spend with my family if I wanted to, or to just spend with myself, or to do what I have to do. And that was motivation enough for me to say, okay, what's happening outside of the US? And I'll tell you, all you have to do when it comes to international business is you begin talking to people. I expanded my online presence. I started joining groups. What are they talking about? What do they need? I remember getting a TESOL certification, and I got a TESOL certification, and I said, let me see if I could stir up something. So I go online and I start talking. I'm going to teach a English as a second language class. And I just start talking about it. Some people from Israel signed up for my online class. And then when people started signing up, I got scared. I was like, oh, it actually works. It works. And so I drew up the curriculum and told them what the fee was, and went online and taught an 8-week class just from saying, let me just see what this is. And at the end of that class, they invited me to Israel. And I went to Israel just like that. But again, all of that started with me saying, okay, let me take some international risks. Let me throw it out there. Let me take a chance, because you never know. You only live once. So whatever that idea is on the inside of you, how do you go global with it? How can somebody in Italy use your services? And when you begin to ask those type of questions, your mind begins to expand, and it's like, okay, I know that I have something that the world needs. Let me just put it out there. And I promise you, if you put it out there, the world will respond because somebody needs your services. Okay, I'm sorry. Next question. Anyone, next question.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. Just as a brief heads up, we actually have quite a few guests here from NDIM, the New Delhi Institute of Management from India.
Nice.
Yes, so they are here. And Dr. Ghazi actually posted it in the chat as well. So I wanted to welcome everyone, but I'm also opening it up to all of our guests in case there's questions. Please don't feel shy. And definitely wanting to let you know so that in case questions come up, you're aware that we do have quite a few guests here as well.
Yes, our international trip with Pepperdine was in India. And let me tell you, my guest that's on here from India, I had the time of my life. I stayed in the best hotels. They don't know this, but I crashed an Indian wedding. And when I tell you, I was taking pictures with the bride and the groom, they welcomed me in there. The food was so good. I had the best time in India. So yes, welcome, please, welcome. Yes, I think they have Indian movies about wedding crashes. Yes, and I want to encourage you all. Apply for jobs. Think global, and do not let anything hinder you. Do not let anything hinder you. You can do it. You can do it. So I just want to encourage all of you. Okay, so let me hear about some of you who are on here. Everyone in here, everyone is students? Are we in the work world, or somebody tell me about you and some of the things that you have in mind to do.
I think, Hia, do you have a question? I think you are not on mute, so I wanted to know if you had anything to say. Okay. Perhaps not. Okay, Maria, it was such a wonderful experience visiting the NDIM and seeing all the presentations. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Dr. Bonds. Well, thank you for being here, Maria.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for being here. This is Dr. Wright. Oh, yes. Hi, Dr. Wright.
It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you as well.
Sorry I was a little late. As always, your words are powerful. And I just want to thank Dr. Gabby and Dr. Ghazi for providing these opportunities. I think they're necessary. And I just appreciate all that you all do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wright. Thank you so much. Okay, does anyone, so what are we, everyone here, they're visiting the NDIM. Are we students? Tell us a little bit about the program. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yes. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Greetings from India. Yeah, so we mostly are students in the second semester of our PGDM MBA program that we are doing from NDIM. And we have the specialization of human resource management. So
nice, very good.
Yeah.
Do we have some tech people?
Yes. So yeah, I just had a question about you talking about don't sweat the small stuff, like
Yes.
about protecting your mental health. So I wanted to ask about, do you have any specific process in mind that you go through or that you want other people to know to keep your mental health in place?
Yes.
Or how do you do that? Like, what is the technique that you follow or that a person should follow?
Yes.
Yeah, that was my question.
Okay, very good. First of all, thank you so much for the question. That's a very good question. So for myself, I had to make a list of what makes me happy. And I found that in life, I I can make a lot of people happy, and a lot of people may call on me, for questions or about things, but sometimes the encourager needs encouraging. So I had to make a list and say, okay, what makes me happy? And those things that make me happy, I had to make time to invest in myself. So even in my schedule with doing things, I had to make time to do that for myself. And so those things consist of, I have quiet time in the morning before I get up. And my quiet time could be prayer. It could be a meditation. It could just be thinking and reflection. And then some part of the day, I invest in myself. So what is something that I enjoy doing that's going to make me go further? And I take some time, and if it's writing, I just write it out. Just take some time and do that. And then here's another thing. Do not be afraid of talking to someone, of therapy, of do not be afraid of that. Because sometimes you need someone to talk to. And you need someone that's not going to judge you. You need someone that you can be safe around. And you can only do so much with friends, because after a while they'll stop picking up the phone. So make sure you find someone, and if you do have that person, just make sure that you keep that person close, because sometimes you have to unpack. And those are the things that help me. They help me. And so when people come to me and they come to me with a lot of things of, we want you to do this, or they try to pull me this way, I have to stop and I have to think about my mental health. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? And some things that look good, some projects that look good, and some things that people are talking about that look good, I have to say no to. Because in the big picture, does it affect my mental health? Does it put me in a place where I don't want to be? And so I want to encourage you to find those things that make you happy. Find those things that give you peace, and you make time to do them. Because if you don't make time for yourself, who's going to make time for you? Who is going to 100% make time for you if you do not make time for yourself? Look after your mental health. Thank you again for that question.
Dr. Bonds, I wanted to just, have you kind of discuss a little bit about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because I know that you said you do work in DE&I, and I think it's really important, because there are still a lot of places around the world that don't know what DE&I is, or if they do, they might not have a good understanding of it. And I want us to have more information about that as well.
Yes, thank you so much for that. A lot of times when you're in organizations, you may find, and a lot of us may have experienced it, or you may have seen it, that people of color may not have the same opportunities as everyone else. Or if you're different, and different could be ethnicity, sexual orientation, it can be even the way you think, creative versus more logical. It doesn't matter. A lot of times people can marginalize you because of that, because of your diversity, because of what makes you different. And unfortunately, a lot of companies do not feel like they have a problem. Their employees, everybody's white, everybody's, but we don't have a problem. And so, okay, I'll tell you about a project that I'm working on now. You could easily have one person of color on a team full of up to almost 100 people. And then the question, and that person feels marginalized, and a lot of people may not realize it, but they have a tendency to treat that person differently. And so in diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's all about saying, yes, our organization is made up of people who are different from us. But we as an organization need to celebrate their differences, welcome them in. A lot of times we shun what we're not used to. We talk about it, we ignore it. But if you're a firm believer of diversity or of including people, then you would do what it takes as an organization to say, you know what? I want to make sure that all of my employees feel welcomed. And unfortunately, there are high turnover rates. There are high turnover rates because women in a lot of organizations do not promote as fast. People of color do not promote as fast. And a lot of times they don't get the support of managers, or they don't get the support of their higher ups. And so they don't get the voice. They don't get to voice that. And so that's diversity, equity, and inclusion, just making sure that there's an equal seat at the table for everyone. Every organization should invest in consultants and trainers and just people to come in and to help with diversity, help to make their organization more inclusive. Every organization. Because the problem is everywhere. It's in every industry. It's in the entertainment industry. It's in the tech industry. It's in education. It's everywhere. Okay, I hope that answers the question. Okay, any other questions? More questions? You said that some people in here are in tech, right? Are in the tech industry, or no?
I think Ankit mentioned, and you can let us know, Ankit, did you mention human resources?
Human resources, okay.
Oh, and there's a question in the chat by Pranshu Kumar. What is your approach to understanding the perspectives of colleagues from different backgrounds? Good question.
Yes. So in understanding people of different backgrounds, the first thing that you want to do is you want to listen. You want to listen to them. You don't want to be quick to say that you know, because most of the time you may not. So you want to listen. Allow them to talk, to express themselves. And one of the 7 steps of highly effective people is seeking to understand. There's a book called 7 Steps of Highly Effective People, Steve Covey. So, and one of those steps is seeking to understand and to be understood. And if you can take a step down and just listen and try to understand, hear where they're coming from, that will help. That will help to understand the background. That will help to understand their story. Being able to put yourself in their shoes, empathy. That is what we all need with organizations, especially when it comes to working and talking to people who are different from us. Being different is not good or bad, it's just different. So let's embrace different. But it's all about listening. It's just about listening. Okay, some in tech and in human services. Okay, all right. That's good. I'm asking these questions because, well, I was just talking to one of my clients, and they were just saying that it is such a big need right now for people who are developers. And I wish I was a developer right now, but it's such a big need for that. So when it comes to like working abroad and just finding opportunities to go global, there are organizations out there that will hire. And in fact, if you have that type of background, I'll leave my information so that maybe you can send, if you're seeking some international opportunity, so you can send me some information and I can definitely pass it along. But again, networking, that's networking, you know, networking helps, it works. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Thank you so much, Doctor, for posting it. Okay, any other questions? Did you say there's some, any questions? Welcome all questions. Let me see what other, what are some of concerns that you may have just in maneuvering in life as it relates to business, as it relates to, you know, diversity, as it relates to breaking into the global market, as it relates to maybe barriers that you may have, maybe things that you feel like that could be a hindrance to you in getting into the market. What, does anyone have any questions about those? In your opinion, what is the most challenging aspect of working in a diverse environment? Working in a diverse environment. One of the most difficult things is not being given a chance. I've had people not even hear me. Like the decision was already made before I even went in the room to say, I would like to be a part. The decision was already made. And it's difficult because, you know, that person that you're passing by could be the person that can change your whole organization. But unfortunately, we're living in a world where racism is alive and well. It is alive and well. And it's unfortunate that whenever you walk in the room, then, you know, they've got you, and a lot of times it's implicit bias. So there's a term called implicit bias. And those implicit biases, that pretty much means you react based on how you were raised, or there's some things that's on the inside of you that you didn't know that you had, or a lot of times that you did. And a lot of times, you know, people have a perception on they have a perception of you based on what they've seen on television, based on generalizations, based on their limited knowledge of what's going on with you. And they react and they live and they judge according to that. And unfortunately, that shuts the doors from a lot of people having the same opportunities. And that's why there's such a big need for diversity, for equity, for inclusion, for saying, yes, I deserve a seat at the table. Why? Because I've done the same thing. I work hard, if not harder. I work hard. I deserve an equal seat at the table, an equal chance. So that's why it's such a little bit of. I'm sorry?
You froze for a second there, so you were saying something and it froze.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was the last thing?
You know what? You were saying something about diversity, equity, inclusion, and then it froze.
Okay.
That's what happened.
Yes. Well, that was a good way. That was a good place to freeze. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Any questions?
Well, one thing I wanted to ask, and so I just put it in there, is that, you know, you mentioned racism, and one thing is we see racism even within our own race. You know, I'm Indian Pakistani, and I see that I'm a little bit more tan than maybe other Indian Pakistanis might be, and so, you know, they're always like, oh, you know, put some of this golden cream on so you can get more.
Yes.
You know, and how do you deal with these kinds of things?
Well, unfortunately, we live in a world where there is a notion that the whiter you are, the righter you are. White is right. So the closest to that, then the closest to being great and perfect you are. And so what we have to do is, and you know, unfortunately, it happens. I've seen that in traveling over in Africa. I've seen it. I've seen it. And even here, I see it. You know, I've heard people say, oh, I'm dating such and such. Oh, I got me a light-skinned person. And then everybody's like happy, you know, and it's like, why? Why? So the best thing for you to do is, number one, not to fall into that same ideology. And a lot of times we may have been raised to believe that. We may have been raised to believe that we're not good enough because, you know, the person that's lighter than you, or the person that's white, you know, we should wait until after they get their turn before we do. So number one, you got to recognize that you feel that way. Recognize that you have those feelings, or that you was probably raised like that. And then the question is, how do I suspend those beliefs? How do I get rid of those beliefs? And sometimes that will take dialogue, because a lot of times there is a lack of self-love. And the media, when I was modeling, I remember I was told that I was too ethnic. Then I was told I wasn't ethnic enough. I was too this. My lips are too big. My eyes, my nose. I had all this stuff going on. I'm too big. I'm too small. I'm this and I'm. Do you know that was during those moments? It was like one of the worst moments of my life. And I was like, you know, like I was on America's Next Top Model. I was like doing stuff. I was doing stuff, and I was doing fashion weeks, but the pressure of having to be perfect in and eyes that believe the whiter you are, the righter you are, it was too much. It was too much. So love yourself. Remember, you are your greatest gift. And the greatest gift you can give yourself is love. Love yourself. And the things that you think that are flaws, they're not flaws. They're not flaws, because the question is, why not you? Why not you? You were chosen to go through what you went through to help someone. You were chosen to experience what you experienced to help someone. So you can either be depressed about it, or you can say, you know what? Let me brush myself off. Let me forgive. And let me move on. And how do I affect change? How do I affect change? And this is the perfect opportunity to talk about Pepperdine, the Black History Month film screening of Dark Girls. This is Dark Girls 2 on February the 22nd. So February 22nd, and let me let you guys know, this is what's today's date? Okay, so you have over 10 days. Here's my homework for everyone. Yeah, I'm giving homework. This is my homework for everyone. I need everyone to click that link and to make sure that they watch this movie on February the 23rd. Excuse me, February 23rd. Because it's movies, we need to get into more discussions and more movies and more experiences like this, where we're talking about these things that affect all of us. So the link is there. It's for everyone. The link, everyone can see the link. Make sure that you watch this, you click this to watch this movie on February the 23rd.
Thank you for that promotion.
All right. How would I advocate for diversity, education, and diversity initiatives with individuals who don't see its value? Very, very good question. Very, very good question. How do you help someone see the light who does not want to see the light? When you've talked to them, you've encouraged them, you've done all that you can do. At the very least, you can live the light. You live the light. Because at the end of the day, we have to make our own decisions. And you can talk, you can ask, you can encourage, you can pray, you can do all of those things, But something on the inside of that person has to say, you know what? I have to see things differently. So if you can't do anything else, you live the light. You live it. And that's what I do, because, you know, after a while, it starts affecting your mental, and you're like, okay, look, now we talk about this all the time. So I got to the point where I said, okay, let me show and say less, because the thing is that type of energy, if someone just refuses to, you cannot make anyone do that, anything that they don't want to do. You cannot make people do that. Okay. Oh, we have 2 minutes left. Oh, we need more time. Okay. What is your biggest piece of advice for getting started with DEI? This is a great way to end our, okay. Biggest piece is to educate yourself. Educate yourself. Find out the issues that are surrounding diversity in the workplace. Find out what the biggest needs are. And what I did was I found out, okay, these people need this. These groups, this organization needs this. This organization needs that. They need this. And I'm seeing a pattern here. Okay, well, guess what? I'm an expert at it now. I do it now. So this is what I was telling myself. I do it now. Then you need this. I do it now. So I doing my research, and you have to you also begin to research people who are doing it. Listen to them speak, and then check out their information. And anytime and join groups where people are having these types of conversations. And then you begin to kind of craft what it is that you do, and then you make it available. And guess what? If you put it out there enough, somebody's going to say yes. It only takes one time. The first time that somebody said yes to me about a training, I was in class and I was presenting. And every time I present, I was trying to give it all I got and just do it and enjoy it. And then they came up to me and said, we need that. I was like, we as in our organization. Calvin, we would like to pay you blah, 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 $1,000 to come in. I said, sure. But you have to put it out there. You got to put it out there. So create your destiny by doing your research, educating yourself. Do not sweat the small stuff, taking care of business, and just putting it out there and networking. You all know me now. So find me on LinkedIn. If you have questions, ask me. I will be more than happy to help and to do anything that I can to help in any way. Please sign up for our other events coming up. I think this is my time. I just want to say thank you all so much for allowing me to, I'm just so thankful. Anytime that I get to do anything for Pepperdine, I'm just so excited and I'm so thankful and I'm so humbled. So thank you, Pepperdine, for allowing me the opportunity. And for everyone that's on today, thank you for just giving me your time. And I hope that I've said something that was very helpful to you. Please stay in contact with me, Dr. Calvin Bonds on LinkedIn. Send me a message. I want to hear from you. How can I help you? Let's continue having conversations. All right, with that said, without further ado, I turn it back over to the good doctors.
So with that being said, thank you all for joining us today from Pepperdine University's Graduate School of Education and Psychology and the Center for Global Partnerships and Learning. We thank you all. We encourage you to sign up for our other sessions. We have such wonderful programming. And thank you, Dr. Bonds, for being here and for supporting our little center, as I always call it, and for doing the work, right? For doing the good work that's out there. We all need more of you. So thank you all. Dr. Azia, would you like to close this out?
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We do have another speaker coming up today at 5:00 p.m. Pacific, our very own Dr. Clarence Caldwell. Would love for all of you to attend that session as well. If you have not signed up, follow the link that I posted in the chat And go ahead and sign up for that today. Again, 5 o'clock today with Dr. Clarence Caldwell. And with that said, Dr. Bonds, thank you so much for attending, for coming and being one of our speakers today, and for just really giving us the opportunity to learn more from you and to learn from your own journey towards leadership. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Absolutely. But everyone else, thank you so much. We hope to see you in our other sessions coming up today and throughout the rest of the next two days and then next week as well. With that said, we will see you all soon. Have a wonderful one.